Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of Digital Dialogues. I can't believe we're at the 7th one already. I'm Rene Grosdanovski, and in each episode, I take you on a journey through some of the biggest digital questions in the asset intensive industry. Each episode focuses on a different topic, and each has some interesting guests, providing expert and real life insight into the topic at hand. The aim being to unpack and discuss each of these in detail, what they mean for you and your organization. Well, today's topic is very near and dear to my heart. Over the past few weeks, we have been discussing topics such as mobility, single point of data, data quality, the importance of it, and of course, asset maturity. With a strong theme around data and using it to make better decisions and getting our staff enabled to get insights from them. But before we get into this week, let me take a moment to remind you to join our LinkedIn group. And as always, this is an interactive session with a Q&A panel to the right-hand side of the stream. So I do want to hear from you because today is an interesting topic and I know you will want to ask some questions. Well, today is about getting insights from data from Maximo and sometimes from other places. Most of you watching are Maximo users, owners, or in some way connected to Maximo. And I'm sure most of you know about the right to use Cognos Analytics for the use with Maximo Data. But how many of you are in fact using Cognos at all? For years, we've been implementing solutions and processes for our clients to gather and connect vast amount of data. But for many people, this data is either not reported on at all or analyzed, or if it is, it's done so in isolation. Well, as you may know, Certus Digital is part of an ecosystem of like-minded companies with whom together we've been providing digital transformation for our clients. Well, as of earlier part this year, Certus and Cotel have formalized their partnership after working together on many of our client implementations for over 5 years. The partnership between Certus and Cotel is a significant one for both companies, as we are now able to offer our clients end-to-end solution offering integration and alignment across the design, data, application, information management, and analytic building blocks together as the two largest IBM partners in this space in the Australian New Zealand region. Cotel are a platinum IBM partner with offices and teams across ANZ and have been helping clients get insights from their data for over 20 years. And based on the awards they've been collecting, are pretty good at it. Well, with me here today, I have Nick Potts, Director of Cotel, and Amand Mazan, Business Analyst Solution Specialist for Cotel. Nick, I'll hand over to you to introduce yourself and your team.
Thank you, Rene. Really appreciate the introduction. And good afternoon to everybody. My name is Nick Potts, and with me today I have Amand Mazan, who is a solution architect working for Cotel Australia and Coreplan New Zealand. I'm a director of both Cotel Australia and Coreplan New Zealand. Today we're going to take the opportunity to actually give you a live demonstration of Cognos Analytics directly on top of Maximo Data. But before we do so, I'd just like to spend probably 3-4 minutes just to put things in context for you so you can appreciate where the journey, the evolution of the journey has come from, what we're trying to achieve, and what the end result can now be for you. As Rene said, for about 20 years, we've been working with organizations, helping them with their business decision-making process. And, over that time, we've seen evolution of software capabilities, functionality, integration between business and data sources that's really helped evolve what was once a very fragmented, very isolated, very disparate process across most organizations. And a quick look at this chart in front of you here is, we focused for many years on the planning side, helping organizations with budgeting, forecasting, planning, financial consolidation and modeling. Often that was the realm of finance, a select few. Over the years, that's evolved to be enterprise-wide, cover enterprise performance management. The business intelligence side of the equation, which is Cognos Analytics, often was really limited to reporting and distribution of information for people to enact and operationalize the insights that were being found from the systems, often supported by data warehouses and a lot of transient data that needed to be brought together. Trying to understand the diagnostics, why do things happen, was often the realm of a few analysts who really knew the subject matter. And then as you move into the predictive and the prescriptive world, that was an even smaller, limited number of people who were essentially, often the joke is they wore white lab coats, and they were the ones that really dived deep into the inner workings of the data to try and find out how could we make things better, how could we improve, and how could we optimize. Well, as IBM has improved all of its technology and all of its capability in this space, a lot of this is now starting to integrate. The tool sets themselves now share interfaces. They share access to data. You can now be in the planning cycle, and you can start to, once you've established what are we going to do as a business, what targets do we need to meet, how do we plan, what are our budgets, how are we going to forecast, we can now start to use the Cognos analytics to measure against that, to say, well, what's happened? What happened last month, this month? What happened last year? But more importantly, why did it happen? Did we achieve our targets, overachieve our targets, underachieve? Was there an anomaly? And now a lot of that is now all melded into these product sets. It's really important. This is something that's probably the crux of today's presentation and demonstration for you. No longer do you have to live in an isolated tooling set. This can now all be integrated. And this actually applies across any and all industry sectors. This is just a snapshot of some of the applications that we've developed for our clients across industry over the last 15 to 20 years. Pretty much everybody needs analytics to gain access to information, consolidate information, analyze, model, and report. So before we dive into Cognos analytics, I just wanted to give you a quick insight to what planning analytics is. So planning analytics, like I said, traditionally was the realm of finance, doing the balance sheet, profit and loss, consolidation, financial modeling for the organization. But the IBM planning analytics platform is so diverse and is extremely broad in its capabilities that it can help each individual line of business right down at its own operating level to roll up into the consolidated financial plan. At some stage in the future, I'm hoping to be able to take you through the planning analytics product and its roadmap and just show you how it is benefiting organizations of today. But as we move forward for the rest of today's presentation, we're going to show you IBM Cognos Analytics. The evolution of this platform has been nothing short of spectacular. The last 3 years have seen it go from the world's leading enterprise reporting solution to now having integrated AI, which is augmented intelligence, to help you cleanse and find patterns in the data. There's guided exploration, which is real-time infused capability within the platform to leverage the data that it's natively accessing. Interactive dashboards, storytelling, reporting, anything that you would naturally assume should be in an enterprise business intelligence platform, it is there. But with the integration of the AI and the cognitive capability, it's taken business intelligence into a new realm. But what's most important for me is that it's Maximo ready, it's integrated, it comes with your license. It's going to use the data that's inside Maximo, so it's centralized, your data will be secure. It gives you the ability to do real-time analytics and drive the insight that you actually can't get when you take the data out, put it into another reporting tool or into Excel, and distribute and send that on. So what you're going to see today through this demonstration that Armand is going to do is real-life interaction with a demonstratable asset management database. And on that note, I'll hand over to Armand to carry on.
All right, thank you, Nick, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm going to take you through Cognos Analytics, and the situation we are going to be kind of role-playing is the role of an analyst who's trying to understand what is driving asset failures in a particular organization. So this is the welcome screen that you are faced with when you log into Cognos Analytics. Over on the left, we have folders where you can add content. Of course, governed by security. Team content is what is available for everyone to see, and your own personal content. Now, with the fact that you have Maximo, what we want to do is to seamlessly integrate into Maximo. And what we can see over here is just how this is happening. So these are the assets and the modules that you have within Maximo, and we are leveraging all of these to present some of the discoveries and insights, which I'm going to share with you a little bit later. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump into an asset failure dashboard. So typically a landing page which you can customize and have your own colors and palettes and so on, and that's kind of normal. Over here we have a high-level view of the type of KPIs which are most commonly associated with assets and their usage, so efficiency, availability, and so on. We have the ability to have icons to represent asset counts and KPI numbers showing trends, year-to-date actuals. Fully integrated, fully interactable. So clicking on this particular thing here will give me interaction and insights here as well. I can go further and have a look at the asset failures and where they're all occurring, right? So we can see failures by site, by age, and so on. And I can interact with any one of these. If I click on this, for example, want to drill down and see the underlying detail there, I can just right click and navigate to that, and that'll give me a detailed report with all of the information about the assets, maintenance costs, and so on. Of course, I can share this report to anyone that I want, and they can take action on that. These reports can be scheduled and based on alerts or thresholds which you can define yourself. So we've got all of this information here, and this is like any sort of normal dashboarding tool that you'd expect. But what does it do, and how does it help us to understand what's causing asset failures? It could be any one of these. I could just say, well, all the assets in Texas, they are failing because they're based in Texas, and just end my analysis there. Or I could say it's due to the asset age. I could click on this. I can, just using my mouse, expand and contract that to look at the time in greater detail. I can make my own assumptions around the failure class, in this particular case, tumble, or the asset type, facilities. But this is kind of a little bit biased because I'm going with the information that I know and that I'm aware of. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something a little bit more scientific and more objective. And I'm going to go to the assistant within Cognos Analytics. And I'm going to start with a simple thing because I don't know where to start with a sea of data. I'm going to say, help me. And basically Cognos Analytics is going to come up with this. It's going to ask me if I want to see the data that's available to me, or I can say, suggest some questions. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. And Cognos Analytics is going to suggest some questions here for me. Now, I can go with any one of these questions if I want, or I can just reset that all, and which is what I'm going to do right now, and look at some of the other questions. I can go on this, and what it's going to do is it's going to automatically generate some charts over here. It's going to suggest some things which I might find interesting. If not, I can say, well, show me things which are related to that. And now we're kind of getting to the meat. I want to explore asset failures. So this is what I'm interested in. And I can say, well, just create a dashboard from this. So I'm going to click on that. And without me having to do anything, Cognos Analytics has now created a dashboard on the fly, showing me asset failures, linked to the number of crew, the location, how many failures we had last year, bringing things like service frequency, failures last year, and also asset life. So this is a great starting point if I want to go with this route, but I don't want to go with this. I want to take control of my own exploration. So I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to start with a brand new canvas. So I'm going to close this over here, and I'm going to go onto my assistant. So what I'm going to do here is we're just going to go into the content, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to say create an exploration. Now, this is going to give me all of the data that we have available to analyze. And what I'm going to say is I want to start looking at failure and what is driving failure. So what Cognos Analytics has done automatically is brought up the relationships between data points and my focus, which is failure. Now, these are things that I might probably know about already and are probably intuitive and common. So things like failure class, regular service, they might know this. But I'm going to make this a little bit more complicated. I'm going to say, show me my secondary relationships. So now it's starting to show the interaction between the age and the service frequency. And as you can see, it's showing me the predictive strength between this relationship and my focus point. What I can also do now is just bring that over there. And now we have quite a complicated web here. So the thing is, where do we actually start? Over here on the left, it has generated some charts automatically based on this. So not only has it generated the charts, it's chosen the right charts with the right sort of data on here. And I can go in here and I can say, show me more. Again, it'll generate some more charts. And I can just start looking at any one of these and pinning it and collecting it to analyze more. So I'm going to jump to an exploration which I've already collected with a whole bunch of assets. And there's a few things I'm going to point out. So this is a chart which has been generated automatically, showing me my asset light by failure class. A couple of things I want to point out over here. On the left, we have details, right? So these details are in plain English. So if this was a cluttered chart with lots of lines, it'll draw my attention to some points that maybe I've missed out on. So we have all of this information over here. I also have a little insights bar, which I can click that on, and it's going to look at this and it's going to analyze the data and tell me if there are any meaningful differences. It's already found one. We know there's a problem here in this case of tumble, and it's given me some more details here. So I'm just going to return that. The other thing I can do just with one click of the button is I can say, I want to compare some of this data over here. So I can say compare, and it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to say, well, you can create the comparison yourself, but based on what you've chosen, Cognos Analytics is going to suggest some comparisons that you can do. So it's suggesting that I compare it to the number of years of the company, to the failures last year, and so on. So we're going to come back to this comparison in a second. I'll show you just how powerful that can be. Another type of visualization is what we call a bullseye diagram, right? This is my focus point here. This is failure. And the closer a diagram or a bubble is to the bullseye, the greater the predictive strength is. So I can also look at a combination of drivers. So here I've chosen one driver, and here it's just said regular servicing has a predictive strength of 12%. But that's just one view in isolation of all the other data points. I can look at two drivers, and you'll notice this changes here, or I can choose a combination of drivers. And now it's looking at all of the drivers, and it's come up with this association here. The association of regular service, leaseback option, failure class has a predictive strength, or is a predictor of failure with a strength of 45%. I can also have a look here. And if I look at this, just to show you how advanced this is, I can have a look at the scope of this analysis. And what you'll see is that I have 250 data points in this module. Cognos Analytics has saved me the trouble of going through all of those and has automatically selected 44 of these 250 data points and identified those as relevant and having a direct relationship with my focus point, which is machine breakdown. Of course, I can change this manually if I wanted to, and remove or insert additional data points as we wish. So we're going to pin all of these, and I'm going to collect those and go back to my dashboard. Right, so we can now have a look at the results in another sort of format. I can have a look at a decision tree. So here, because it's already picked up regular service as a key predictor, I want to have a look at what is the impact of not having a regular service. So I'm going to expand this tree, and I'm going to follow this all the way down, and it can take me to whether the companies are leased or not, whether assets are leased or not, whether we have a full option lease plan or a different kind of lease plan. And we get to this here, right? And we can see that in this particular case, where there is no regular service and we follow all the way, this accounts for 70% of the assets failed. Now, this is just one part of the tree. If I expand that out, well, and this is a simple tree, where do we start? Okay, so what we have is a sunburst diagram. Now, the sunburst diagram helps you to zone in and identify the areas in which you want to focus. So if I was to look at this up here, this combination, if we wanted to focus on an area where the machinery had crew of less than 7 or greater than 7, it only accounts for 1%. So I'm not going to waste my time on that. I'm going to have a look over here, and this combination here is now accounting for 7%, and this one here is now accounting for 16% with 34% of the assets failure. So straight away, it's bringing my attention to this area that I want to focus on. So apart from having this in this visual diagram, I can have a look at it in plain English as well. And here we've come up with something, or Cognos, should I say, has come up with 100% of the assets are going to fail if it meets these requirements. No regular service, less frequency, the failure class is clean, tumble, and pipes. So rather than me just saying, okay, this is great, what we're going to do is we're actually going to test this hypothesis and prove that this is correct. So I'm going to come here, and here we have the asset failures. The yellow are the assets which are going to fail, and blue the ones which are not. Here are the failure classes. Now, we're going to play around with those filters and the things which Cognos Analytics suggested. So we're going to say, no, it does not have a regular service. And as I change these filters, you'll notice this chart is updating. The asset status, I'm going to say, is idle at the moment. And my service frequency is going to be small, right? And I can just manually type in, let's say, 2,500 hours a month, for example. I'm going to say that. So you'll see the chart is changing dynamically. Here we have almost 99% of the assets are going to fail. There's still some are not going to fail. So we're going to say the spares availability is low, right? So this is now endorsing what assets have failed historically in the past. And this is going to give us a guide to forecast and predict what assets are going to fail in the future. So any assets which fit into this profile will most likely fail. With these assets failing in mind, we can have a look at the work orders which have been generated. So here are all of the work orders which have been generated. I can expand, drill down to any level of detail that I want. These schematics can be any shape or form, so it can be a plant, a manufacturing plant, a mine layout, or anything it is that you want. And of course, I can hover over this And this will give me details about the actual costs, the number of work orders that we have here. I can click in here and I can say, well, show me all of the work orders that have been generated here. And that will take me into this report here. Right, these are the work orders. I can share this, I can schedule it. I can subscribe to receive this report. And this report can also be scheduled to run when certain thresholds or criteria have been met. So we can go back to that. So now we know the work orders. What we want to do is have a look at the costs that we are most likely going to incur as a result of these work orders. So what Cognos Analytics does is it has a very smart forecasting capability. Here we have the average maintenance costs, and for 2012 going all the way to 2016, I have some insights here which I can toggle on, but the icon I want to draw your attention to is this one here, which is forecast. So I'm going to turn on the forecast. It's going to ask me how many periods. I'm just going to leave it on automatic. For now, I'm going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to say forecast. So what it's done here is automatically done a forecast. This is my upper and lower level confidence levels. But 2014 in this particular case, that was an unusual year, and you can see that here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exclude that. I'm going to just click on that, and I'm going to say, you know what, I want to exclude this, right? Because this was an outlier, this is an unusual condition. What you'll notice, Cognos Analytics has automatically reforecast that, and also there's a little exclamation mark here, and that's giving me a warning. And what that's telling me, and if you can't see it, it's telling me that Cognos Analytics has imputed some values for the missing data and has used that as an input into my forecast. So we have that powerful capability as well. What I can also do on this particular thing here is I can go into edit mode, for example, and if I want to have a look at the data that is underlying that, I can click on that. It'll show me all of the data that is associated. Give it a second. So here's all of the data that's been used behind the scenes here. So there's no smoke and mirrors. More importantly, I can have a look at the statistical details. And I don't need to be a statistician or a data scientist, but I can just go across here. I can see the accuracy is 71.8%. It's told me the frequency and the statistical model that's been used. I can go all the way across here, and the trend strength is 85%. So I have a lot of information that I can look at to do further analysis. All of these can be saved as a story. So what I can do here is I can just say, save this as a story. It'll save it as an interactive slideshow. And what I can do, I'll just save it like that for now. And this story can now be burst or scheduled to anyone who wants to receive this. And I can just go into my settings here. I'm going to say play all the scenes, loop, and I'm going to press play. Right, and this will now go through the presentation. It's not like a PowerPoint presentation because this is fully interactive. I can stop this at any point in time that I want and interact with it. So I'm just going to come out of edit mode, right? And I can interact with it at any point that I want. Right, I can pause the presentation here, and I can now interact with this. So very useful for sharing, collaborating, adding comments, and so on. What I can also do in terms of reporting is we can really make this very snazzy. I can have a look at this. So here's just an example of what you could produce. Quartel Australia with a little quote from the director, Nick Potts. Here we're looking at our maintenance costs for the year, where the maintenance costs are, the type of 50% of the costs are related to facilities, and so on. And you can go all the way down. You can bring in associated HR costs, any other type of costs, or information from any other data source as well. And here's our call to action for 2020 with going forward with Maximo. So that is very quickly just skimming the surface of the capabilities that you have within Cognos Analytics, all seamlessly integrated with Maximo Data and available to share and analyze and look at greater insights with the data that you have at your disposal.
Wow, that was very impressive. Thank you both, and Nick. I'll say it first, that was awesome. It's great to see not only the insights you can draw in such a small amount of time, but also to see the more advanced features of Cognos Analytics. Most people would not have an appreciation for what you can do with Cognos, or really how it differentiates. I mean, Power BI is the tool you hear everywhere, right? And so Cognos was one of those things that people, I think, assumed was just a tool that used to be around. But certainly seeing some of the advanced features and how they can be applied to the day-to-day as far as Maximo is concerned, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And again, for those of you that don't know this, I used to be a report writer, so many years ago, and I can tell you the tooling was nothing like this. So I can only imagine ever had tools like this. So thank you for that. As always, I aim to ask a series of leading questions to try if we can explore the topic a little bit further. Obviously, today was a technology presentation, so some of it is going to be based around that technology. But I guess the first thing that comes to mind, you show a very interactive way of engaging with your data. Obviously, the part of the presentation was you showed a dashboard that obviously can be shared and scheduled and so on. And then you also showed the process by which you went about creating that dashboard or using it to produce outcomes. I think it's fair to say that really you would have an SME or super user produce these dashboards that are ready to be consumed by management and so on. Is that a fair statement?
Sorry, you cut out for a second. What was that? You need to be a super user.
Is it fair to assume that obviously the dashboard that you presented, for example, today will be produced by someone who's a little bit able in terms of a super user who understands the data, understands how to draw insight from that? And if you're a manager, an asset manager, or someone who's consuming or using this data for decision-making processes, they would engage with this data by either having it sent to them, scheduled, their iPad, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so you don't really need to be, more important is to be able to understand the data, to actually present the dashboard and create the dashboard like the one I've shown you. There's no code involved in that. It's all drag and drop. So any analyst can look at this. As I've shown you with the assistant, you can just say create dashboard. But if you want to do your own dashboard, it's just simply dragging and dropping. The most important is understanding the data, where the data resides, and the relationships in the data. And even at that point, Cognos Analytics draws out those relationships and sets you on a starting point.
Beautiful. And one of the things you showed, obviously, at the very beginning was you brought in what looked like some sort of entity relationship diagram. It showed basically how the underlying data, it hangs together. And you mentioned, obviously, that's integrated with Maximo. So is it fair to say, I don't need to understand how data interconnects in Maximo? I know what I want, but I don't know Maximo. So is it basically because of the integration with Maximo, does that mean I can natively just point and click and say, I want to know my maintenance spend in this area last year? Is it as simple as that?
It's as simple as that. This is really, this diagram which we have here is just to show you that it is directly integrated with Maximo. And that there is no moving of data, exporting, importing, using a third-party tool in the middle, whatever. As Maximo updates, all your dashboards, reports are generated, will rerun with the updated information. They can be streamed, scheduled to run in whatever interval it is that you want. Absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. So I mean, one of the challenges, upgrading software is always a challenge, right? Especially when you have interconnected system. I think, Nick, you spoke about integration capability and so on. When we talk about upgrading, schemas change, products change. And so one of the considerations or risks during an upgrade always is that impact on reporting. So I presume that integrations then manages that risk for me?
I'll grab that. Look,
Yeah.
I think in short, it's obviously quite a complex answer, but in short, I think the answer is yes. It would be a lot easier to manage an upgrade process when it's integrated into the Maximo framework, as opposed to being third party and having to upgrade different connectors, different extractions, different loads, different naming conventions, altering, and so on and so forth. With the advancement of the Cognos application now, upgrades are also in place. So the actual upgrade of the Cognos part of this equation is very, very simple.
Of course.
So you're minimizing your ongoing maintenance and administration of what is now, if you like, a truly integrated framework inside your Maximo asset and data.
And one of the things we spoke, I think it was one of the previous episodes, I don't quite know in which one, but one of the things we spoke about was obviously the amount of data that we now collect and present to people is vast. And so that in itself has presented obviously new challenges, and that has been, how does one know what to look at, right? Just collecting every possible sensor point and throwing that at me doesn't really allow me to necessarily understand that and go, I see where the problem is. The problem is somewhere in front of me, but obviously I don't have the computational power to do that. So, I mean, the suggestions you showed, obviously it uses the data to analyze and find what would be the trends that I may be interested in. Is it as simple as I said, if it came up with something, great, but if it didn't, can I just say in plain English, this is what I want?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've just, when I did that, asked the assistant, I just said, suggest some questions, and I went with one of the questions it suggested. But I could type in any question that I wanted, right? So when I came here, I can just type in a question, and I could have just said asset life or whatever by site, for example. And as I start typing, it's going to prompt me, right? So I can type anything. And here it says asset life and crew training times last year, for example. I don't have to go with any one of these, but these are just suggestions. Asset life and service frequency. You can click on that and it will come up with something.
So basically it's like Google for my data.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. Because again, the answering the question that you have is actually fairly simple, right? Once you know what the problem is, answering it and producing a report for it has been around ever since I was writing reports, and that was a while ago.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I'm taking away from here is the ability to identify the bits that I may be interested in. And the second bit here is the fact that you mentioned the ability to be able to put what essentially are trigger points, alerts in place to what would then resemble automatic action. Automatic action in the form of, in Maximo, automatic action, emailing someone or whatever the case may be.
Correct.
You can actually monitor activities within the Maximo asset database when thresholds are reached, or a specific day or a specific asset is required to have an action upon it. A report can automatically be generated. But again, a lot of this is only possible, Rene, because of the fact that the data is kept within Maximo.
Of course.
So it's it's safe, it's secure, it's governed, it's real time. So the ability to do these analytics and to do these insights is actually only possible because it's dynamically integrated and the data does not leave Maximo.
Right.
I understand. So some of those fundamental principles of that single source of asset or single source of information do still stand. And I guess data quality, I take it, is important. As we saw in 2014, we didn't spend anything on maintenance or something like that.
Yeah,
correct.
And having a tool set like this with this capability actually will highlight data issues very, very rapidly. So the data cleansing process can be actually augmented and supported by the use of the actual tool that's helping you produce the data.
Yeah.
Produce the results.
And that's very visible right here. So when I just typed in asset life and service frequency, it generated this chart, and straight away I can see there's an outlier right here in a table which has 250 columns and I don't know how many millions of rows. I probably wouldn't have picked that up. But so in terms of data quality, integrity, visually it's able to direct you and point out any outliers very quickly.
That's brilliant. Yeah, like you say, again, you just don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
Now, Rene, I think one of the other really big advantages, which we didn't get to today because it wasn't a focal point, but the whole planning analytics integration. You know, that wheel I showed at the beginning is now started to become a very big realization for a lot of companies. You know, how do I optimize something to achieve an outcome and a goal that is being identified by our performance against our targets? And to have that integration framework now within the IBM tooling, very, very powerful. So planning analytics, as you know, it captures all the revenue, all the cost elements, you know, the capex, the depreciation, the modeling. If that can then be linked to Cognos analytics and linked to operational reporting out of the asset management platform as well, you have a very powerful combination, very powerful asset to leverage across the business.
Oh, that's brilliant. And obviously outside of the Cognos planning, the analytics stuff that we saw today, if you're a Maximo user, presumably on the latest version, I would argue everyone should be on their path there anyways, you can have that today.
That is correct. For people who haven't installed it or configured it or got it working, we're looking at offering a 10-day ramp-up pack, essentially, where we can come in, we can get the system operational, get it connected, get it working, create a few dashboards and a few reports for you, train you, and leave you to develop it yourself or offer a mentoring framework or a mentoring program with you over the duration of the next 6, 12, 18 months as a long-term partner to engage in your success. I'm happy to share that information back with you, Rene, for further distribution.
Awesome, thank you. And I guess it was easy for me. I saw the dashboard today, and someone who plays with Maximo and uses Maximo and implements Maximo, on a daily basis, all that looks familiar. And I imagine most of the viewers are familiar. Aman, how many times have you used Maximo?
Not many.
And that's actually good, because I mean, what that shows is that this was a perfect test, and I saw you're working through this process. So the ability for you to be able to put together what was a very comprehensive dashboard, actually genuinely answering questions, and you being only held back a little bit by the quality of the demo data. And again, everyone on this call knows demo data Maximo is of highest quality. This is sarcastic, of course. I really got to give you credit that it's really impressive, and it does show that the tool is really intuitive, because I don't think that, like I said, I take the tool away, that would have not been that easy.
Correct.
Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you for your time. Obviously, it does take a lot of time to organize this, and the effort obviously you've put into this. For me, I just want to say this was really interesting. For one, I've never seen Cognos Analytics on Maximo push this far. I hope that you all walk away with some curiosity and excitement about what can be done. In previous episodes, we spoke about making better decisions using data. And to me, it's clear the key piece of this is providing clear, precise, and easy to engage with analytics to support your people in making better decisions. What is the point of gathering all this quality data if there is no means for them to consume that data and understand the data that they're looking for? Otherwise, all of this is pointless. So I want to thank Nick and Aman for their time today, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I think the next episode is going to be a virtual hackathon, I understand. I don't actually know for certain today, but I'm sure I will see you in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.